The Cubs win the Bellinger stare down. I think that's the headline.
I don't know if you have to frame it that way. I think that both sides win. I like the contract for Bellinger, and I like it for the Cubs. If he has another great year, he can opt out, and they can do this dance again.
He took on a lot more risk than he thought he would going into it.
I'm sure.
That's what I mean is like there's some guarantees in there. Sure, he's got 80, but that's not the number we thought. I mean, average annual value probably about right. He can bet on himself again, but I think this is a clear win for the Cubs.
Why do you have to frame it that way?
Because that's what this was. This was the stare down with Boras, and they didn't have to commit more. I mean, it's not my money. I'm just judging it from just objectively looking at the negotiation. And
but looking at the negotiation, I feel like it's fair to say that everyone wins in this.
Well, I mean, I don't think he got what he thought he was going to get going into
the offseason. He has the opportunity to get that.
But he can get hurt.
He could, or he could have a 6-WAR year and opt out.
Correct.
And get that money, which is you're in a stable place with the contract itself because you know that you've got $80 million coming to you, but there's the opportunity to do more. Like, think about it.
We all thought he was going to get double the guarantee.
But think about this. Who thought it was a good idea for Marcus Stroman to opt out at the end of last year?
The Cubs.
Well, yeah, but
to answer honestly,
no one looking at the amount of money that Stroman had coming to him was like, it didn't make sense for him to do it, and yet he found more guaranteed money for another year of service. So to me, it's a great thing for the Cubs if they want to try and sell the fact that they're going to win. They're trying to win right now. There's still more to do. There's still more free agents out there, and some of them have Scott Boras as their agent. But I love this. Like, this is a guy that clearly people wanted back in that clubhouse. This is clearly a guy that solves a couple problems for you where you don't have to rush the Pete Crow-Armstrong development just because. If he wows you, that makes things very easy because you go, okay, Belly can play mostly first base, and Pete Crow-Armstrong can be your center fielder.
I'd like PCA to learn how to hit.
I would too.
I also think it takes some of the urgency away from the Morel experiment. This thing ties the room together. This is the Bellinger deal, and I do think he's got more value to this Cubs team as they're constructed than he might to Team X. That he's the rug that ties the room together. Look at he might, whatever his individual value is, say he's a 3-win player this year. Most projections have him around being a 3-win player. Great. Those are 3 huge wins for where the Cubs are right now.
Yep.
And there's a multiplicative effect based on the value of players you're playing elsewhere. He is a multiplier for this Cubs team this year right now.
And from a personal standpoint, he's just a good vibe. Like, he's the type of guy that you want in your clubhouse. And those guys have been talking about it. I've witnessed it myself, like going out there and just being like, oh, he's the guy that kind of keeps everyone calm. Like, his whole thing is, I'm laid back. I'm really good at baseball, but I'm kind of laid back. Like, I'm just kind of here, and I'm here to help, like all that stuff, but I just want to play ball and have fun. And you need guys like that, especially when they're one of the better players on your team.
Well, especially when you have, the guy next to him in left who is super intense.
Well, and your shortstop and second baseman are like that too.
Tightly wound.
Yes. There needs to be a guy that's like,
whatever, man.
Dude, everything's going to be fine. How do you know? Just because things are going to work out and it'll be fine. You need that. And you add that in with the excitement of a guy like Christopher Morel. It's great.
Yeah, look at the personalities of your starting outfield, left to right. That's an interesting mix. That could be like a buddy cop movie with the 3 of them in a van solving crimes.
It could. It could, and we'll see what ends up happening with PCA. But I think it's a great thing for him in the long term. It may not feel as great in the short term because you might start the season in Iowa.
Fine, learn how to hit.
but you have to learn how to hit. You have to. But when I saw it, I was like, wow, like look at this. Like this deal with the opt-outs in it, it's great for the Cubs, and I think it ends up being great for Belly too. So now play ball. Well, go get some more help and play ball.
And there was a recent report that Bill James did in sort of classic old school Bill James style, where he was dealing with a lot of hard numbers rather than some of the more advanced stuff. And he did it like the way he used to do stuff for Baseball Abstract. And he determined that the best possibility of Bellinger sustaining this new version of what he's become is in his ability to cut his strikeouts down. That looking at the sample size of guys who have made concrete changes to their approach that has resulted in a certain percentage drop of strikeouts, the sustainability was relatively high. So that's good. The power may not come back, that it may not necessarily be there, but that might be
that 25 home runs might be like the top.
Yeah, which might be okay. Obviously, depending on when and against whom and everything, but if he is whatever he is, there is a good reason to believe there's reason for optimism that was not a fluky one-off of a season. So I liked reading that.
Yeah, I hope that it isn't, because it did seem like he found himself. And at the end of the year, you started looking at hard hit rate with him, and you're like, what's happening? But yet and still, and this is some of the luck aspect of it, those balls were finding holes. Like he was kind of like, he wasn't hitting the ball necessarily hard. But
we have luck in our game.
That's true.
That's Craig Counsell.
That's true. And I think if they played out, it did feel like he got a little tired at the end of the season. But I felt that way about Dansby Swanson,
I
too.
thought the whole team did. You want to look at Mark Leiter Jr. and Julian Merriweather. I thought the whole team was physically and mentally tired at the end of the year.
You know what? It's part of what I wonder if that went into the decision on Ross. If they were like, there were days that you could have taken Dansby, and we know that Dansby wants to play every game. Like, that's his bit. Like, that's his whole thing. But there were days in there where you could have piggybacked an off day for a guy, and maybe then Swanson, who won the Gold Glove, but anyone that was watching Cubs baseball in September knows that he wasn't the same shortstop. He was making mistakes that he doesn't ordinarily make.
Mental mistakes.
Absolutely. And I kept going. There was that stretch of games where they were winning. You're like, this would have been an opportunity to get guys some rest, not just wait for the actual days off on the calendar.
This is Jed's theory about playing these close games and how you got to have blowouts. That good teams understand that when you can disconnect a game and say, all right, now we're into garbage time. You're sitting down.
It's a fifth inning. Go take your spikes off.
Yep.
Because we're up 12-3. Go take your spikes off, and we can give you some time here.
You can get some separation that way, and it's knowing how to lose a game. It is also understanding, boys, this is not our day. You know what you're going to do? Take your spikes off.
Yep.
And we're going to get some guys some opportunities, and we're going to go with our low leverage pitching, and it's okay because we're looking at bigger things. The problem was their playoffs started in August.
One could argue it started in May.
You probably could, but I'm just looking at that stretch with the Tauchman catch and some of what was happening in there. I'm trying to remember what was the other game? There was a somebody home run game, and there was the Tauchman catch game. And it just they had to redline everything.
They didn't, though. Like I mean, we were saying it in real time. They didn't have to, and then you saw the effect of it. Then you saw guys dragging ass in September, making mistakes. Ian just dropping a ball. Like, just what happened? I don't know. It hit me in the glove and it fell.
Seiya completely misjudging a ball.
Atlanta, right?
I think that's right. Well, you had that whole awful Colorado series too.
Yeah, but the Atlanta series was more troubling because that was probably the beginning of the end.
Yeah, the Atlanta series was, we're nowhere near as good as they are.
And that was a heartbreaking moment of the season.
The Seiya miss
situation.
was the giant comeback, right? Where they were up 7-1 or something stupid like that.
I think that's it.
And then it's like, oh, that's too bad because he had done so much for them.
Yes, that was a heartbreaking moment of last season.